There are some reasons why you shouldn't invest in the Philippines real estate market. Now, I'm all for investing in real estate. In fact, I have properties here in the Philippines as well. I bought my first home in 2016 in BGC. But in this video, I'm going to tell you problems and challenges of investing in the Philippines real estate market. I'm also going to tell you what type of investments I make and what makes the most sense for me as a foreigner. So why should you listen to me? Well, I started my real estate professional career in 2004 in the US mortgage markets. In 2010, I moved to the Philippines, and in 2012, I started an online real estate marketplace called zipmatch.com. And there we had tens of thousands of buyers, sellers, and brokers all transacting real estate. Since 2016, I've acquired 20 homes across 8 locations in 4 countries. So I've had a lot of experience in different countries and different markets. I can give you a better perspective of the Philippines real estate market in comparison to the rest of the world. So let's talk about the Philippines infrastructure. So we know that infrastructure development has a big impact on the value of real estate. It enhances accessibility, drives value appreciation, improves the quality of life, and stimulates the economy. Better infrastructure will just attract more businesses, tourists, and ultimately more investors. But the thing is, the Philippines is considered to have one of the worst infrastructure development in all of Asia, only beating out Myanmar and Cambodia. And even countries like Indonesia, Thailand, and Vietnam have surpassed the Philippines in the recent decades in infrastructure development. And we know that traffic has a big role to play in the quality of life and the efficiency of an economy. So Metro Manila is ranked the #1 worst city in the world according to TomTom's traffic index. But here's the bright side. Things could change in the future. When President Duterte was in power, he initiated his Build infrastructure program. But new President Bongbong Marcos is pledging to up the infrastructure spend to now 5 to 6% of the country's GDP and inviting businesses to participate. But Marcos emphasizes the railway system, in particularly subways that stretch across Metro Manila, Davao, and Cebu. And it's going to be in partnership with the Japanese. If this happens, this could significantly change the landscape of the Philippines infrastructure development. And this could really boost real estate investments. That means there could be some significant upside around the corner. And this could be a very good time to get in. So let's talk about Mother Nature. The Philippines is considered one of the most natural disaster-prone countries in Southeast Asia. While Japan experiences a lot of earthquakes and typhoons, Philippines experiences more natural disasters because of expectations of volcanic eruptions. The Philippines spends hundreds of billions of pesos every year recovering from natural disasters. So this can really deter real estate developments, especially in areas that are vulnerable to typhoons. There was a lot of hype around investing in Siargao in recent years. This is the Philippines' most popular surf destination, as well as an up-and-coming travel destination in the world. In December 2021, Typhoon Rai, a Category 5, slammed into Siargao, devastating the island. The estimated damage was approximately 20 billion pesos. A lot of these properties and resorts, they didn't have typhoon insurance coverage. A lot of them were unpermitted buildings that weren't built to building codes, or they were bought on tax declaration and didn't have a title, so they didn't qualify for coverage. And that brings me up to my next point. The Philippines has a very complex legal structure around land and property ownership. A significant portion of land, especially in rural area, lack proper registration. I've seen a lot of people, especially in places like Siargao, try to sell me land based on tax declaration. So basically what this means is I have to pay the seller a large sum of money to have the right to pay the property taxes. Now, a lot of agents and people in these remote places will tell you that it's completely safe, but you need to know that this doesn't prove legal ownership. And the lack of proper registration leaves owners to be vulnerable for disputes and conflicts in the future. And we've heard of cases of people being scammed out of their property sales. So in 2018, there were reports of individuals buying up properties in Boracay, popular tourist destination, only to find out that their titles were fake. So this incident involved a large-scale scheme where scammers were selling land titles to non-existing parcels of land. And it's not uncommon to hear about disputes over properties. I've seen Filipino friends fight over inheritances over properties that were acquired generations ago. So we know the process of resolving these types of disputes can be extremely slow and painful when you have to go through these bureaucratic hurdles in this legal system. So if you're a foreigner who has to go through ownership disputes in the Philippines court of law, well, guess what? The laws are just not set up in your favor. Okay, so let's talk about the land ownership restrictions in the Philippines. The Philippines Constitution restricts land ownership for Filipinos. Now, you can buy land with a corporation, but at least 60% of the corporation has to be Filipino owned. Again, think about future disputes in a Philippines court of law. Also, real estate is a legacy investment. Think about future generations having to potentially go through disputes in the Philippines court of law. Now, I've heard of many foreigners who have purchased land using legal loopholes or what they consider legal loopholes. There are several ways to do this, but the most common thing I've heard of people assigning either the deed or shares of a corporation to dummy owners who are Filipinos just to get around the land restrictions. Now, that's a terrible idea, and let me tell you why. There is an anti-dummy law that aims to prevent foreigners from circumventing restrictions over land ownership. Now, the penalties can be severe. You can forfeit your land or your property, your business, as well as be facing deportation, fines, and even possibly imprisonment. So I definitely wouldn't recommend going against a country's policy, or their constitution for that matter. These policies were set up in place as a reaction to hundreds of years of colonialism. They were set up to give Filipinos an opportunity to land ownership and a way for them to generate wealth. This is a way their government preserves land ownership opportunities for their Filipino citizens. This is not a free market for foreigners. So I think it's great to have policies to give Filipinos an advantage. However, this is going to limit the growth and potential demand of the Philippines real estate market. Restricting foreign investor is only going to limit the amount of capital invested in real estate, which is going to ultimately limit the potential growth in value. Now, for foreigners like me, the best option is to invest in condominiums by reputable developers. This is the most legal and safest way for foreigners to own real estate. Let's talk about condominiums as an asset class. So for me as a foreigner, the only investment that I felt safe with was condominium investments by reputable developers in first-tier cities like BGC or Makati. It's strange because in other countries, I would buy into the brand of the city or the city municipality. When you think of places like, say, Beverly Hills, Hollywood, or the Hamptons. Those are the brands that you think about. And they're important because these municipalities is what governs the entire area. Not only does it give you permission on what you can and can't do with your building, they're also in charge of the city planning, and they're responsible for things like schools, hospitals, infrastructure, bridges, and all the things that are gonna make your property valuable. So these are very important factors that drive your surrounding neighborhood and ultimately the value of your properties. So in the Philippines, I don't put my trust in these local municipalities. We've seen what they do in urban planning, especially in more rural areas. I tend to put my trust in these real estate developers who are also major conglomerates. And these are the guys who develop condominiums as well as the entire township. If you think of places like BGC is the flagship township of the Philippines. Ayala Corporation, who also happens to be a major developer, was in partnership with the urban planning of BGC. So to me, the corporate setup, the registration and titling are done correctly and clean so that I can rest assured that my investment is safe. So let's talk about mortgage accessibility. There's only a few major banks in the Philippines that offer housing loans. First, banks are very wary of lending because of the titling and registration problems. On top of that, there's lengthy delays in the foreclosure process due to the weak court systems. Even the ones who can qualify for bank financing, when compared to other countries, the terms aren't very favorable. In 2024, the interest rates range from anywhere from 6.15% to 10.5%, with high penalties and fees. So most properties in the Philippines are sold in cash or pre-sold by developers who are offering their own financing. But because of the lower price points, I can see myself making some of these investments in cash. Although typically I prefer not to purchase properties with cash and I prefer to buy properties with a mortgage, but because of the low price points in the Philippines, I might be okay in some cases buying properties in cash. This factor is going to greatly contribute to the liquidity of the market. That means less capable buyers, less transactions, and longer sales cycles. At the end of the day, when it comes to real estate investment, the numbers do matter. So let's take a look at what the Philippines real estate market looks like relative to other markets in Asia. Let's start with the price to rent ratio. This is an indication of how many years it would take for you to recover your investment with rental income. So the Philippines ranks number 3, only behind Indonesia and Thailand. So in the Philippines, it takes you approximately 19 years of rental income to pay off that property. In comparison to Taiwan, which takes 46 years, and Hong Kong, that takes 30 years. So relatively speaking, it looks pretty attractive. So that means that the relative rent is proportionally high to the typical price of the property. It means the Philippines will yield a higher return. So Metro Manila is ranked the second highest yielding city at 5.04%, only behind Jakarta at 7%. So in terms of affordability, Manila ranks number 2, with an average price per square meter at $1,317 or 74,000 pesos. When you think about the low price point, the affordability, the high rental yields, Philippines does look like an attractive investment on paper. But what's even more interesting, if you look at the outlook for the Philippines, there is some strong indication for good growth and potential upside. There's a large growing population of over 100 million people. It's a very young demographic as well, with an average age of 25. Plus, the Philippines economy has been growing by an average of 6% per year. And that's quite high. That's actually one of the highest. So my best advice I can give you is don't invest in places you don't want to be, no matter how attractive the investment looks. To me, there are more attractive real estate markets out there, even some that offer me land ownership, as well as a possibility to gain citizenship. And in the Philippines, there's no naturalization process for me. Not by marriage, not by investment, and not by residency. It's also a very important personal factor for me of why I may not want to choose the Philippines as my primary real estate investment. But despite all this, I still decided to buy properties in the Philippines, and I still plan to buy more. At the end of the day, no matter where I am in the world, I want to come back home to the Philippines. Nowhere in the world have I found people to be so warm, loving, and welcoming. As a foreigner, I've always felt like I fit in there. In fact, I've made better connection with people in the Philippines whose first language isn't English than I do with people in countries like the US. I'm not ashamed to say that because if you've lived in the Philippines as long as I have, you'd probably agree. So you have the luxury to buy real estate in any country. Choose the country you want to be in. Because if you don't, you won't put your time and attention to maintaining that asset, and your investment is going to suffer. So listen guys, I know a lot of you guys aren't subscribed to our channel, but if you like our content, subscribe to our channel and hit the notification button and share this with a friend who's thinking about their next investment. This really encourages us to put in the time and attention and the research to put together these quality videos for you. So stay tuned for my next video.